Coming to you live from our studios on Slaughterhouse Road in Belize City, this is Love Television with your evening news for Wednesday, June 22nd. We'll get started with the stories making the headlines for today. Minister of Foreign Affairs says progress being made in ongoing talks on the Sarstoon. Vision inspired by the people questions OAS resolutions passed in the Dominican Republic. Belmopan City Council to launch municipal bond, and villagers of San Marcos in the Toledo district demand removal of principal and vice principal of village school. Belize's Foreign Minister Wilfred Ellerington and BDF Commander David Jones returned home today from Washington, D.C. Bilateral talks were held at the OAS headquarters with Belize's counterparts from Guatemala. Love News spoke with Minister Ellerington on the outcome of yesterday's session.
Meetings take place in phases and stages. They discuss certain aspects of it at one time, and then at another time they discuss other aspects of it. You can't discuss all of it at once. When the conference building measures were done in 2005, it took some time. Negotiations take time to be concluded. I think we should hopefully finish between now and the end of the year. So we had both generals there yesterday, and we had both foreign ministers. I think it was only the generals and the technical people from the Ministries of Foreign Affairs. On this occasion, we had both Ministers of Foreign Affairs, and then we had the generals as well as the technical staff of both ministries.
According to Commander David Jones, progress was made and the discussions will continue.
The entire negotiations is in relation to the Sarstoon. What the objective is to have in place something similar to what we have in place for the western border. And that takes time, but we are working on it. There is a mechanism. We are going to be putting into place something in writing which ultimately is going to encapsulate all the issues that we think are relevant in relation to this matter.
As it pertains to the untrammeled access that Belizeans have to the Sarstoon, as was recently announced by the Prime Minister, here is how Minister Ellerington explained to the media the current status of that aspect.
I think that was signaled from the time the Prime Minister allowed the statutory instrument to be withdrawn. We took the position that Belizeans can go and come. From the time we withdrew that statutory instrument.
But sir, how much weight does that have?
Cannot go, they do not have untrammeled access.
I don't know if it's so obvious. I do not know whether it is so obvious. I don't know where you have your facts from. I don't know if it is so obvious. Well, it's a process, you know. You go sometimes, you are stopped. There are times you go, you are not stopped. And that happens it's since 1937 that this has been happening. And certainly since our independence, our military have been going there every single week. Civilians have been using the river for fishing and from boating, whatever it is. There are times when you have hiccups in the relationship. Government's responsibility is to try to resolve those hiccups. But the intention really is to ultimately cause these things to happen without any problem. Same way in which you can go to any other part of the country, the intention is that you will be able to do the same in the Sarstoon. And we are working on it. We don't have total and complete control over the Guatemalans, but we are working with them and they are working with us to ensure that we have, as the Prime Minister said, untrammeled access.
The talks lasted for about 5 hours yesterday. Last week, we told you that the People's United Party made a decision to not take part in the bilateral talks between Belize and Guatemala after the government's consistent exclusion of the PUP from several meetings. Foreign Minister Wilfred Ellerington says that he doesn't see this PUP decision warranting a response, as it is not unusual.
It's kind of consistent. Sometimes they don't attend the National Assembly, so the fact that they don't attend a meeting like this is not surprising. They seem to have their own confusion about what is their responsibility and what is their role and how they are going to discharge it. I don't think it is my place to comment on that. When they don't attend the National Assembly, they have an explanation too. They will always have an explanation for the actions that they take, but I can't speak to that. That is the position that they take and the explanation they offer. I can't say anything of that really.
While Minister Ellerington is not concerned, PUP Senator Eamon Courtney says that the rubbing shoulders and befriending of Guatemala's Foreign Minister Raul Morales is not something the PUP will entertain.
The People's United Party has a very proud history of dealing with the Belize-Guatemala issue, before and after independence, right? This idle thought that we feel hurted, that we feel disrespected, and so we are pulling out like children, it is utter and complete nonsense. The reason that we have taken the position that we have taken is because we fundamentally disagree with this approach of talk and hope. And unless and until talk and hope is stopped as a national policy, we are not participating. And I am saying that we are going to go on an offensive to get that policy change, to convince Belizeans that the policy has failed and we need a different strategy. So, to answer your question of going to London, going to Washington, going to Istanbul is neither here nor there for us. We are more concerned with a real plan, a real strategy, and a change in the facts on the ground. If we can do that from home, we will be happy. But if we have to travel, we are prepared to do it. But we are only prepared to do it when we are prepared, we are ready, we have a strategy, and we know what we are about. This talking and hoping and loving of Carlos Raul is over and done with as far as we are concerned.
Senator Courtney says the government is yet to respond to the PUP's decision on their future participation in the bilateral talks. After the OAS General Assembly meeting held in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic on June 14th, which called upon the Secretary General to support the process leading to resolution of the territorial disputes at the ICJ, the Vision Inspired by the People, VIP, sent a press release stating that the resolutions are conflicting when compared to the 1980 OAS resolution between Guatemala and Great Britain. Chairman of VIP, Hubert Enriquez, explained.
We are saying that after considering the contents of the resolution that was made last week in Santo Domingo, in the Dominican Republic, by the OAS, we did some research, and we in fact noted that when Belize was struggling for its independence, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution on the 11th of November 1980. And subsequent to that, the OAS held a meeting, and on the 27th of November 1980, they endorsed the United Nations General Assembly resolution. So that basically, that resolution was actually saying that, it was actually reaffirming the territorial integrity of Belize, and it also put in place mechanisms by which it was going to protect Belize's territorial integrity. And so when we look at that resolution that was passed in 1980, and we compare it to the resolution that was passed last week in Santo Domingo, there is a severe conflict because the resolution that was passed in Santo Domingo is essentially endorsing the option to go to the ICJ. Now, the ICJ essentially is, the special agreement is saying that what it wants the ICJ to do is to define the Belize boundary. And so there's a direct conflict between both resolutions, the resolution of the of 14th of January, 14th of June, and that of 27th of November 1980. And so that's what we have to bring to the attention of the public.
VIP agreed with the Belize Progressive Party that Belize should have the issues addressed by the UN National Security with one objection.
It is clearly there where there is a provision that we can go to the United Nations Security. And in fact, it is not only what we're saying, it's a practice already. In fact, we have examples of countries that have gone to the Security Council to get their matters resolved.
Okay.
Well, the main difference, of course, with our position and that of the DPP is that the DPP is saying we need to go under Section 39 of the UN Charter. We are saying no. The resolution that was passed in 1980 gives us direct access to the UN, and so there's no need for us to go to Section 39. You see, the resolution passed in Belize's favor in 1980 was a special resolution. You don't find it in any other country's resolutions, and so we have a direct access to the UN Security Council because they were well aware that this problem of Guatemala was going to be a problem that's going to come up every so often. And so they made those provisions for us, and it's something that we haven't used, and we are saying, now listen, it's time for us to use it now. Let us see what's going to happen and try to do something else other than just continuing what we're doing right now with no results.
The release ended with the statement, quote, "The VIP calls on the government of Belize to take necessary actions to preserve the integrity of both the United Nations and the Organization of American States, which has been severely compromised as a result of the resolution passed in Santo Domingo on June 14, 2016, end of quote. VIP's chairman also commented on the fact that the Belizean population is limited when it comes to being knowledgeable on a dispute resolution at the International Court of Justice. Chairman Hubert Enriquez commended the Belize National Teachers Union for coordinating the countrywide consultations to help spread information on the territorial dispute being resolved at the ICJ.
We were very much pleased to have been a part of the consultations with the BNTU and teachers. We went countrywide. We went to each district, and we even went to San Pedro as well. And we discussed. In fact, in those meetings itself, there were persons representing the government side. There was the BPP, and there was the VIP. We each gave presentations for about half an hour, after which there were questions and answers. And it was very clear to us, because no vote was taken, there was no vote taken at the end of the consultation. But it was very, very clear to us, based on the questions that were asked, and also the interaction, the lively interaction, that the persons who attended those consultations were really against the ICJ, and so we feel that those concerns have to be taken into consideration in looking at how we deal with this whole matter between Belize and Guatemala. But we feel also that there ought to be more consultations, and we certainly want to commend the BNTU for taking the initiative to begin this education process. But we want to do much, much more to get message across to people.
The VIP had accompanied BNTU on their consultations across the country. Enriquez noted that the consultations made them aware of the ignorance in Belize. He also mentioned what it would cost the government if they were to go to the ICJ.
I think it's a very good thing. It has to continue, and we have to have it in such a way that more persons are available to attend, because there is some confusion out there, and with what's happening on the Sarsoon right now, I think it is leading to some anxiety among Belizeans, and it needs some clarification, because some people see it as something. Some people are intimidated by it and feel that we have to go to the ICJ as a result because of this happening right now, when in fact all we need to really is go to the Security Council and make a request of them to intervene, and we feel that is going to work. But our government has actually been reluctant to do that. We don't know for what reason, and because our problem really is not to define the borders. Our problem really is a matter of security, and so going to ICJ is a wrong choice, because we know where our borders are already. But what we want to do is really to have a mechanism to deal with our security, and that is going to be resolved, we feel, by going to the Security Council. It isn't something we are saying. It's been tried by other countries. It's been successful, and so we think that's what we have to use to get the matter resolved. Lots of persons were shocked when we presented the alternatives to them. They were shocked. They thought that in fact there is no option that would go to the ICJ, and so when we got there, there are many questions they asked of us about, why is it that the first time they're hearing these kinds of things, because the government tells them one side of the story only, and so having heard what we said, they were more comfortable, and they felt that, well, listen, what we're doing is nonsense. We need to go on this road to make sure we don't go to the ICJ. It's a risk, and there's no need to take risks when in fact there are alternatives which would be less riskier, certainly much more much more effective, and won't cost. Because going to ICJ is going to cost a pretty penny. It is going to cost in excess of $100 million to go to the ICJ, you know. And so going the road which is already established, which we have already fought for our independence, it's just a matter of making requests, and it may happen as quickly as possible. No?
Enriquez added that they are prepared to assist in further education campaigns on the ICJ issue. This morning, the Belmopan City Council and Heritage Trust Financial Services signed an agreement for a municipal bond worth $6.5 million Belize dollars. The bond is to improve the quality of life for the residents of the city through public works, while an estimated $20 million is needed for public investment. The Belmopan City Council has decided to begin the project with the $6 million bond. Mayor of Belmopan, Khalid Belial, spoke to Love News on how they plan to utilize the bond.
Well, this morning we had a very short signing ceremony. It's a fiscal agent agreement for the management of the municipal bond that the Belmopan City Council is pursuing, or is about to be floating actually. It's for $6.5 million Belize dollars, going to be paid out over a 14-year period to subscribers. Of that $6.5 million, $1 million of it is devoted already to paying off a loan we have with the Holy Redeemer Credit Union. That leaves us at $5.5. We plan to use that $0.5 or $500,000 in the purchase of heavy-duty machinery, as well as a few vehicles for the council to assist us in carrying out our daily functions, as well as the maintenance of some of our infrastructure. And then the remaining $5 should be injected directly into infrastructural works in the city of Belmopan in terms of streets and drains.
Mayor Belial spoke on how confident they are on payments for the bond and investors.
Is stretched out over a 14-year repayment period. That's the first point. The Belmopan City Council has been in receipt of a Government of Belize subvention of $50,000 a month, totaling $600,000 a year. That subvention is now going to be locked away into what's called a sinking fund to ensure the repayment of the bond. So that's $600,000 annually going into that sinking fund. In addition to that, because of the fact that we're retiring that $1 million loan from the HRCU, which we are currently paying $14,000 a month on, in year 2, so a year from now, we will also start transferring that same $14,000 into that same sinking fund. That will up the savings per year to $768,000. Over the 14-year period, that $768,000 more or less each year will be more than enough to cover the repayments. Interest payments are going to be due to bondholders on the 1st of February and 1st of August each year.
As we mentioned, the bond was signed with the fiscal agent Heritage Trust and Financial Advisor Legal Fund Limited. Stephen Duncan, Managing Director of Heritage Trust Financial Services, spoke about their role with the bond process.
We will be managing the sinking fund. As the payments come in, we will try our best to ensure the mayor does not draw it back out, and that it is available to make the interest payments as and when they become due. We will be making the interest payments directly to the bondholders. We will be running the accounting for these, so that they will be available public-wise. It's actually a public issue. We will be issuing new, if there are any changes to bondholders, somebody might want to sell their bonds or redeem their bonds, that type of thing. So we'll be doing that kind of administrative work, that there is a high degree of transparency. The mayor and the council will get what they want from the bond issue. Basically, what they want is to get money to continue the work of the city. And so he will get the money and do the work. And he's leaving that other part of bookkeeping and record keeping to us.
Interest payment dates are to be made on February 1 and August 1 starting next year. A developing situation at San Marcos RC School triggered village leaders and parents to protest and students not to attend classes this week. Correspondent Paul Mahung has a detailed report.
The situation at San Marcos RC School has grown from an internal issue to community-level concern, as explained by San Marcos Village Alcalde, Jose Chun.
They demonstrate in Monday, and if they don't get the satisfaction, they will still continue.
Parent and mother of 2 children at the school, Mariaba, spoke of some of the concerns.
We are unsatisfied with the way our principal and vice principal are handling things in our school. First, the principal accused his staff of stealing from his office. When we heard about it, we as parents requested a meeting with them so they can provide us a financial report of how the money is spent for this school year. They presented a financial report without receipts.
Another parent and father of 4 children at the school, Albert Muku, expressed concern affecting him and other parents.
I am unsatisfied by the way the principal is teaching my child. To begin with, in the principal's class, he is teaching my child wrong information. I will keep my child at home until the vice and the principal be removed.
Villager Juan Cal, who had been working along with the parents, spoke of concerns and measures.
The concern of parents is that if the vice principal, Mr. Jeffrey Coleman, and the principal, Mr. Eugene Bengoshe, cannot be transparent and accountable like they would have wanted them to be, then the parents would have gotten to this point to protest the decisions of the relevant authorities. I, the spokespersons of the parents, have met with Mr. Bo, the management, and the Ministry of Education. And out of that meeting, the outcome was that the ministry and the management will afford these 2 teachers another opportunity to continue be teachers and of course leaders of the school as administration. And the position of the parents is that they disagree with that.
School principal Leopoldo Bengoshe spoke of what he knows of the situation.
This protest was because of a letter that I had sent to 3 staff members who are members of the fundraising committee, and regarding school supplies. I believe that as the principal, I have the right to send staff member or staff members letter, especially when I know that they are doing things that are not within the handbook of policy or within the school rules. Thereafter, it was recommended that we have a staff meeting. At that staff meeting, members of the village came and they took over the staff meeting and they demanded financial report. I asked for patience for the treasurer of the school to give the financial report on a Friday. On the Friday, he did not come, all right, but I went to his house and it was agreed that he would provide the financial report at a subsequent meeting. When he came at that subsequent meeting, the manager was there, and when he presented this financial report, the manager was well in tune and the manager agreed with the financial report. It was the villagers who consistently spoke about finance, transparency and accountability. And the manager is saying that there is transparency and accountability in the financial report, sir. The manager, along with the education officer and the BNT representative, decided that we need another meeting, but this time a staff meeting. So we had that meeting at the education office.
San Marcos School is under the management of Toledo Roman Catholic Schools with assistant local manager Timoteo Bo.
I met with the villagers and community, including the staff, on Wednesday, June 15th. 2 issues were brought by the parents and teachers. 1, there is a lack of accountability of the school finances. And 2, there is a lack of cooperation among the staff. After listening to the villagers, parents, and leaders, I urged them to elect a new PTA that would oversee the finances of the school, but they refused. Regarding the lack of cooperation of the teachers, I also agreed to facilitate a meeting with the staff to hear their concerns. That meeting was held on Friday, June 17th at the Education Center. Present were the entire staff, except for 1 teacher who was on sick leave, BNTU representative, Ministry of Education representative. At the conclusion of the meeting, teachers and the principal were able to leave the differences they had and were ready to move forward with the school as a team. On Friday, June 17th, however, I received a letter signed by the alcalde and deputy alcalde, and therein they demanded the transfer of the principal, Mr. Leopoldo Bengoche, and the vice principal, Mr. Jeffrey Coleman. And they also demanded that I appoint Mr. Miguel Vires, a current staff member at San Marcos RC School, as the principal, and that if I don't, they will mobilize and protest. The Education Act, as I explained to them during a meeting yesterday, along with the education manager, Dr. Carmen Lopez, I cannot and will not yield to their demand, as it is not in line with the education rules. As it pertains to the teachers, they are at school and they are ready to teach. I am satisfied that there is accountability at the school.
With the current situation at San Marcos RC School, the 170 Infant 1 to Standard 6 students are not in school, as well as the 26 preschool students, while the staff of 9 teachers, including 1 preschool teacher, are at school during regular school hours. Reporting for Love News, Paul Mahone, Punta Gorda.
BDF Commander David Jones was part of the meetings held yesterday in Washington. He returned on the same flight with the foreign minister and spoke to the media, saying that he is feeling positive about the progress that is being made.
It went very well. He wants the same thing that we want in Belize. We want to have peace in the area, and we are moving towards progress of having all citizens, both Belizeans and Guatemalans, being able to traverse and use the river unimpeded. We are making that strides, and I think this meeting was very successful we just had. We're moving in that direction. I am hopeful and positive based on the meetings I had last week with Guatemalan General and the meeting we just had yesterday. I have seen positive progress that we are going to move to that direction. We're starting this mechanism that will lead to the signing of a protocol which will clearly outline the position of Belize, because our position is not going to change, that we want our citizens to have unhindered, unimpeded access into the Sarstone River. So the meeting we just had yesterday shows great progress that we're moving in that direction.
Some months ago, we told you of the issues that the BDF soldiers operating at the forward operating base were experiencing, where the Guatemalan Armed Forces would trail them at the time of their changeovers. Commander Jones updated the media on that situation and how the talks have helped.
Well, what has definitely been achieved so far, the BDF is not being interrupted whatsoever. The previous changeover we had for about a month now, we've had absolutely no interruption, to the point where they have even stopped following our soldiers going to Cadenas. So what we're working on now is the civilians having the same freedom and access going back and forth to Cadenas as well.
As it relates to access to the Sarstone, Commander Jones assures the public that there is access for Belizeans, including the media. There is one request, however, from the head of Belize's military.
Whenever any Belizean go to that area, I would beg and ask that they go and check in at the forward operating base. You will be welcome there, be it media or any other civilian, to go to the base, and you can go there now, check in with the base, and just inform them what you're going to do, and you should be allowed that access to go in. If any Guatemalans go into that area, they should do the same as our Belizeans, just that they should check at their operating base. In accordance to the treaty, both citizens have equal access to the river. So they can use the river freely, and we should be able to use the river freely as well. So if they go in there, they need to check at their base, and then they will be given access. Similar, if Belizeans go in there, they will check at our base, and they can go in there freely because it's an international boundary. So we both have equal access to it. The point is that we don't want any contention. The main thing we're trying to achieve is to de-escalate any tension in the area. So we will allow their forces to deal with the situation. Similar, if Belizeans go over on their side, they will allow Belizeans to take care of the situation. The point is that we're trying to cooperate with each other, not to have any tension, and not go in there and aggravate either of the forces. So we wouldn't like any Guatemalans to come over to aggravate our soldiers. And we wouldn't like any Belizean to go over there and aggravate their soldiers as well. We're looking for peace, and I'd like all the Belizean media and also our citizens to cooperate with us and just respect each other's forces in the river.
Love News understands that the Northern Territorial Volunteers will be making a trip over the weekend to the Sarstoon. A national executive meeting concluded at around 1 o'clock this afternoon at the PUP's headquarters in Belize City. One of the burning issues that the PUP is dealing with is their desire to have the Belize-Guatemala issue treated as a non-partisan one, and the government of Belize is not cooperating on that matter. Senator Eamon Courtney spoke to the media following today's meeting on the quality of representation being done by the Foreign Minister, Wilfred Ellerington.
We repeat the call. We believe that his management of the process has not led to any success for Belize. We believe that his continued public declaration of love and admiration and affection for the Foreign Minister of Guatemala is clouding his judgment and his vision on this issue. Let me break it down like this. If we do not regard this as a crisis, if we do not regard this as a threat, then nobody in the international community will regard it as a threat and a crisis. And every time the Foreign Minister speaks, he professes love and admiration for Carlos Raul Morales. And it therefore means that as far as we are concerned, we are all happy, we are all friends, and this is all going to be worked out. That is wrong, it is factually wrong, it is legally wrong, and we are sending the absolute wrong message to the international community. And it is because of that fundamental difference that we say this process needs to be managed by someone else who regards this as a violation of our sovereignty, as a threat to our existence as a nation, and who has a desire and a plan to work it the way it ought to be worked. That is the view of the People's United Party.
Senator Courtney says that their call for the removal of Minister Ellerington is one of several serious national concerns that they will be addressing.
Our call for the removal of the Foreign Minister is one element of a wider plan. You see, there's shortly going to be shared with the media the unmitigated, devastating destruction of the Chickabull. It is worse than it has ever been. There is shortly going to be a release about that. Those of us who went to the Sarstoon saw the Guatemalan boats, the fisher folk, fishing freely. There is no check by the Coast Guard, by the BDF, either in the border areas or in the southern waters. I say this, the official policy of the government to our security forces is that they do not want a confrontation whilst our territorial integrity is being violated. Our security forces who want to go out there and fight, our security forces who want to go out and stop the plundering are officially instructed not to do it. It is a public and national disgrace. We believe that a wider strategy needs to be developed. And one part of it is that a competent team needs to be in charge not only of the bilateral discussion with Guatemala, but the internationalization process, of the plan and strategy that needs to be developed to stop the raping of our country, the plundering of our country. Whilst we sit down and talk and pretend to be a friend for Carlos Raul, his nationals are destroying Belize. And I am not exaggerating. You're shortly going to see the facts of what is happening out there. And we strongly, unreservedly say, wake up, government of Belize, wake up. You all are dancing a dance with Carlos Raul. At the same time, he is raping this country. We in the PUP do not support that.
We will have more on today's meeting in tomorrow's newscast from the Leader of the Opposition, John Briceño. Following today's national executive meeting of the PUP, Leader of the Opposition presented some figures to the media, as Briceño warned that the economy is in shambles and the government of Belize is in serious debt. Briceño honed in on the debt brought to the country via the PetroCaribe program, as well as the proposed solutions presented by the International Monetary Fund and the use of the overdraft facilities to meet public wages. A new aspect brought on was the dumping of BEL shares and the investments done by Social Security into the utility companies.
Obviously, the government have been trying to keeping it very quiet. Now we know that the government is broke. They are desperate. It's almost as if they're on crack, and they're trying to find every which way to get their hands on money. They had the PetroCaribe money, $325 million that was blown out in 2 years. And after the visit of the IMF, we know that hard times are coming. And actually, Belizeans are living those hard times. And the prescription that the IMF has given to the government, it is something that will be affecting each and every one of us. We also know that last month the government did not have enough monies to make the payroll, and they had to go on overdraft to be able to pay the government employees, the teachers and the BDF and the police officers. And now, in their desperate attempt to get monies, now they are attempting to sell or dump their shares in the public utilities, namely BEL and BTL, onto the shoulders of the Belizean people through the Social Security Fund. So far, and we're just getting some figures, and there might be some changes here and there, but so far from what we've been told is that so far Social Security has invested $39.5 million in BEL. They have invested $50 million in BTL. They have invested $2.5 million in the National Bank, where we know that the National Bank already is losing money, and now we're using the workers' money to prop up that institution. We're also told that the DFC has also reached out to Social Security for the tune of $5 million. We found out also that Mayor Bradley, Darrell Bradley, and the Belize City Council, they have borrowed from Social Security $6,000. And we've been informed also now that Belmopan and San Ignacio Santa Elena have already attempted or have already submitted or are in the process of submitting proposals to Social Security to borrow the tunes of millions. We don't know the number yet, but I'm sure we're going to get it shortly. And yesterday, as we know now that the media broke out that the government now is attempting to dump as much as $50 million of their shares into of the utilities to Social Security. If that were to happen, then that means that our monies, Social Security's monies, is going to be exposed in these two utilities to the tune of about $140 million.
With all the research and figures presented by the PUP on Belize's economy, Briceño had a stern warning for the Belizean people.
I am calling the attention of all Belizeans to be aware of what is going on, that the government is broke, they are desperate, I know they are trying to do anything possible to get their hands on money. I know they want to get their hands on the people's monies, on the workers' monies, on Social Security. We're also demanding that the Social Security Board be aware that that they have a fiduciary responsibility to all the workers of this country, that not because they have been appointed by their political bosses that they should do as what their political bosses dictates them to do, but that they are there to protect the interests of the workers. So I just want to finish with that again, we are calling on the government to come clean, and also to Social Security to disclose everything and all the monies that they have been lending to the government and to other governmental institutions.
Briceño says that the PUP continues to gather the numbers and figures as they relate to the country's economy. As a national media house that reports on various topics, one of the issues we have harped on is the one where mixed messages are being received over the Belize-Guatemala issue. It has become the norm now that whenever Belize and Guatemala meet, Belize will come back with a report of progress, and Guatemala would then contradict the statements made by our local officials. We have been trying to figure out where the disconnect takes place, and to that end, we have interviewed several individuals on the issue. Today, however, Minister Wilfred Ellerington gave his reasoning behind the constant mixed messages. We'll have that story for you later on in the newscast. The U.S. Embassy has announced that Sean Aviles is attending the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Palo Alto, California, taking place up until June 24. Aviles is the owner and operator of Sean's House of Beauty in Belize City, a small business that manufactures wigs, weaves, and other hair products. More than 700 entrepreneurs from around the world will be a part of the event, along with investors, speakers, and leaders in the entrepreneurship space. They will be joined by high-level U.S. government officials, including President Barack Obama, Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker, Administrator of the Small Business Administration Maria Contreras Sweet, Administrator of USAID Gail Smith, Ambassador for Global Women's Issues Catherine Russell, and Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs Richard Stengel. Months ago, a Fantasy 5 winner bought the winning ticket for over $200. That person, however, had 6 months to claim his or her winnings, but they never showed. So today, the winning of that jackpot was split in half. Public Relations Officer of Fantasy 5, Carol Wallace, told us what they did with the funds.
Back in December, we had a Fantasy 5 draw of $274,000, which was won. It was won by someone who purchased a winning ticket in Corozal. Now 6 months has lapsed. That ticket has been expired today as of 12 midday. And what we are going to do is that 50% of that $274,000 will be added onto our current jackpot for tomorrow. And the other 50%, as stipulated by the Lotteries Control Act, we will be placing that, or will be paying that to the government of Belize. So it's something like $137,000. We'll be placing on our current jackpot of $217,000, which will put us to something like $354,000 as our current jackpot for tomorrow. So we want for the public to go on out, get your Fantasy 5 tickets, keep your tickets, because we want everyone, once you win, we want you to come in and to claim.
Fantasy 5 tickets are $2 and played every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Our thought conditioner for today comes from Shannon L. Alder. It reads, quote, "The battle you are going through is not fueled by the words or actions of others. It is fueled by the mind that gives it importance." End of quote. This has been the evening news on Love Television, and we invite you to log on to our website at www.lovefm.com for of our news stories. Thank you for watching. Have a safe and enjoyable evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. I am Taryn Butcher.